Okay, we're out here. We brought some of Marilyn with us, and we decided to put her where she belongs, out here in the ocean, and she loves so much. It's part of what we do. Remember, man, that thou art dust, and unto dust thou shalt return. Good job.
I love you, Mom.
See you on the bottom.
Let's go diving.
Okie dokie.
Little island girls. Except my skirt's falling off.
She had so much fun.
It was always smiling. I've never heard her say anything bad.
It's just amazing. Generation after generation, I suppose. It's already all been learned.
Look at those flowers.
We're supposed to get into the last island, Sorrel, for 2 dives, middle of today. And obviously that ain't going to happen. And so that's all we know. They're still down there working. It's now 7:30.
Okay.
And I can always finish the video I'm watching. It's late morning, 10 hours, going on 10 hours. They've been down there working and haven't really heard anything except for they're making progress. I don't know. I'm recording this for posterity, but a boat and all guests and crew go down and video's going down too.
Chris, that sounds like you. I thought it was you talking. I never realized your voices were this alike.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So Patrice and Rob, what do you remember about that trip?
Trip. I did in there for about 5 hours at the end where she's videoing her room. We were supposed to be tending the and went to and supposed to keep lighting the bear and blew out. There was all crates to go back to be built. So what they ended is rebuilding right there on the boat about 2 days. All the crew got because the boat was swinging back up into the wave.
And she had a lot of mech.
Lazine,
Well,
Captain Lance was they're upset to his crew.
Well-
It had some driving there.
Yeah, your audio is breaking up.
You need to get a better bandwidth somehow.
Yeah, your audio is breaking up. We heard a little bit of that though. So the general gist of the story is this was a steam engine boat, and we were in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, and it broke down for 2 days.
It's an
So
old.
they were just flopping around out there.
Yeah.
It is bunker that made using regular oil, all the used oil produced by Yan Chuk in Malaysia. They used fuel.
Yeah. Well,
Okay, I want to show you where, if you wanted to watch the whole half-hour video, which I really do recommend, it's just awesome. If the easiest way is to go to Mom's blog, and I put the link to Mom's blog. Now, I wrote all the, I made her blog and I added the pictures, but it is her blog, and it is marilynsplanet.blogspot.com. Now pay attention, marilynsplanet.blogspot.com. do not go to marilynsplanet.com. I used to own that domain, but I let it go, and now it's a porn site. So,
You can go there if you want.
so it's marilynsplanet.blogspot.com will get you to here. And then as you scroll through, you'll see, you know, this Kimberly in Western Australia is one of her favorite trips, and there's a video on that. This Panama, I don't know what happened to the video, but it's not there. Namibia, that's pretty cool, but keep going down, and then older posts, and you will get to
Marilyn. That's pretty neat.
the Thorfinn is what, oh, no, it's not. I lied. It's not there. You have to go to trip history. All right. And take a look at this. I did try to log all of her trips year by year. So in 1 year, 2005, she went to the Antarctic, she went to Indonesia, she went to Irian Jaya, she attended a conference in Savannah, Georgia, and she went to Bhutan. Any one of those trips would have been the trip of a lifetime to most people. And if they are a link, then there will be a video or a blog. So there is the Thorfinn in Micronesia. So if you go down to the Thorfinn, that's the one that's a half hour, and it's a really, I love that video.
What's the year?
The Thorfinn is in 2000.
Okay.
2000 the year. Okay. Now I had some people told me that they had some things that they wanted to say about Mom, and I would love to hear it. Gary Sharp, are you ready? Got to unmute.
There
There,
we
I'm
go.
off mute.
There we go. We hear you.
Okay. I first met Marilyn back in the 1980s when I joined the club, and she was a member then too. We developed a very close bond early on, and there were a lot of facets about her life that a lot of us don't know about. We know about the scuba diving and maybe some of the other trips that have been mentioned by Chris, but there's other things about Marilyn maybe you're not aware of. I'm going to go into some of those. We first met on a trip to San Salvador, club trip, back in the 1980s. One night at happy hour, I excused myself early. She says, "What are you going to do?" As some of you know who've been with me on a lot of trips, I practice transcendental meditation, and I do it every day, twice a day, before breakfast, before dinner. I said, "Excuse me, Marilyn, I'm going to take off for 20 minutes here, go meditate before dinner." And all of a sudden, her eyes lit up, said, "Really? You're into that? Oh, I like that kind of stuff." Well, it turned out she soon started transcendental meditation. What a lot of people don't know is that on dive trips and canoe trips, all kind of trips, she and I would sneak off someplace before dinner and we'd meditate together. So we became metaphysical friends as well as physical diving friends and all these other adventures we did. And she would call me sometimes and, "Gary, you know, I listen to this great radio program in the middle of the night." I said, "You ought to get up and listen to this." Well, it's at 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm sleeping. She says, "This guy's got all these great metaphysical ideas." And she's throwing all these wild ideas, metaphysical ideas to me. It was very interesting, but there was that side of Marilyn a lot of people didn't realize. And she and I would share that aspect. And turns out that on canoe trips, some of you in our club remember back in the early 1990s, I was organizing canoe trips. And Marilyn never failed. She always wanted to do everything adventurous. So she was always on a canoe trip with us. And by and large, most of the time, she was sharing my canoe in the front of the canoe on many of these trips, as well as a tent. We had a great time together. And speaking of adventure, if you've looked into what Chris prepared as her life, a journal of her whole life, you'll see that she lived in Alaska, Guatemala. Chris was just a young girl then. You'll see photos there. Chris is a little girl and Mom's still pretty young at that point. So she was very adventurous. It was around the early 1990s or late 80s, said, Gary, I'm going to go do something most unusual. She took a trip to Nepal and went hiking with this hiking group up in the Himalayas. I don't know how many of you were aware of that, but she had a great adventure up there and she loved it. She would take off and do these kind of things all the time. She was very independent, as many of you know. So much so that we would be at a social gathering, a club party or somewhere. Marilyn's talking to everyone, and you turn around and want to say something to Marilyn. All of a sudden, she's gone. And Marilyn could slip out the back check as fast and as smooth as anyone you ever met, because she'd be there and an instant later, she's gone. And she never went around and said goodbye, everybody. She would just be independently Marilyn and take off when she got ready. I'll never forget that about her. Also, something else that a lot of people didn't realize, Marilyn was highly intelligent. And it was great, some of our private conversations we had, this really came out. She went to graduate school at FAU and got a CPA way late in life. How many people do something like that? Marilyn did. She had this intellectual interest as well as all these other physical interests. And when the internet first started broadcasting, letting us know what it's like to don dive trips around the world, that's when she struck out on her own. I'll never forget one of the first times she did it. We'd been in a Truck Lagoon on a dive trip in 1988, I believe was the first trip we took there. And we went to Truck Yap and Palau on the same trip. And she got introduced to the liveaboard and truck. Next year or two later, maybe it was 2000, she said, Gary, I've done it. I said, what'd you do? She said, I organized my own dive trip and I did it on the internet. And at that time, the internet was new, and the thought of giving somebody $5,000 check to go on a trip halfway around the world was outlandish. Because what? Who's helping you do this? So I just did it. And all of a sudden, she's gone. And after that, she went off and took on everywhere in the world all by herself, more so than anyone else in the club. Very independent lady. You mentioned something about a tree. I'm going to share a couple of photos with you that I have. Let me share my screen. Down here, share screen. I've been disabled by the host. Could the host enable me, please?
You have it now, Gary. You
Try it
should
again.
try it again.
Let me try it again. Ah, there we are. We were in Fiji on the first trip the club took, the first trip to Fiji the club took back in 1997.
You're not sharing yet, buddy.
We don't see it yet.
You will. I'm describing what it's
Okay.
about. And you
Okay.
mentioned trees.
Sorry.
I've got a picture of Marilyn on a tree she found. All of us went off on a jaunt one day going hiking somewhere. And she stayed there. We came back and said, Gary, I found the neatest tree in the world. You got to come with me. So she took me down a cliff in front of the resort, walked down the beach, and she's found this unique tree. We're sitting on one of the limbs. This tree was humongous. She sat on a limb and said, Gary, this is a great place. I came down here all by myself today. And this was like Marilyn. She would take off by herself. She'd go do things. She'd go exploring on her own. She'd find something neat. And then she'd come back when I got back later with the rest of the group. Gary, come on. She dragged me off to where she went. That was one trip she did, found a neat tree. She loved trees. I'm going to share another interesting picture that maybe there. Can you see that?
No.
No.
Oh,
We're
all right.
seeing the
Let me
same
go back.
picture.
Let me go back to stop share and start another share. Here's Marilyn in a hammock. You can see that now?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. She would go anywhere and do anything, more so than any woman of her age I have ever met. This happened to be taken, we were gone to Los Roques Islands for a week. We took off the next week and went up exploring in Venezuela. One of the things we did was we went to Angel Falls, the highest waterfall in the world. And to get there, it took a 2-day trip in a dugout canoe up some jungle river through these great, big, beautiful plateaus, which are called tepuis, from which the highest waterfall, Angel Falls, originates. To get there, you had to spend one night in the jungle. And we went to this pavilion, sort of like a picnic pavilion. They had a roof, no walls, and they had hammocks all over the place, and everyone grabbed a hammock. And so Marilyn was just as happy as could be in her hammock. You can see the smile on her face. She loved these kind of things. Every time I could find an adventure, she would be there. Matter of fact, for those of you that remember those week-long adventures after our dive trips, she helped organize the very first one we had, which is when we went to Glover's Reef in Belize around the year 1990, 91. And I was looking for something to do besides go to Tikal, the ruins over in Guatemala. And she called me one day because I said, Gary, you got to go see this website. It says Jungle Camp. And she helped me arrange the first trip to, I think his name is Ian, Ian's Jungle Camp. And I think the club has been back there more than once since then. But she's the person who helped me find that on the very first trip. And she was always exploring, finding places to go. And this is why I love Marilyn. She became a really close buddy of mine, both physically, our trips, and metaphysically as well. And I'll always remember her that way. Send you lots of love, Marilyn, wherever you are. Back to you, Chris.
Oh, that was great.
Thank you, man. That was good. Anybody here dry-eyed? Thank you.
Yeah.
Get me muted.
All right.
I'll give you an evaluation if you want Toastmaster credit for that, Gary.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Not credit, that's a 5 to 7 minute speech.
That was.
I didn't time it, but I think you were right on.
Okay. And yeah, did she actually do transcendental meditation, or did she just
I
say
think she
did?
faked it.
No, she actually started transcendental meditation. She went formally into it. And when we go on dive trips, sometimes we share a room together like we did in Fiji or other places. And then we could meditate together. So we'd sneak off and meditate together before dinner or breakfast every day. And that was another one of her independent things. She also went on, maybe week-long in-house types of ashram visits. And she did one with Deepak Chopra, I remember.
Right,
So, she was very much into this.
I remember that one. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Gary.
That was
I know
wonderful.
you went on many trips with her and had great memories. A couple other people have specifically asked to talk. Yes, Claire. Claire, tell us. I'm looking. Yeah. What was your memory of
My
mom?
memory was the very first time that I met Marilyn. My sister decided that when I decided to get certified, Julie and Russ wanted to come on my certification dives. So one weekend in May in 2004, I did my 4 dives on that weekend. And on Sunday after the 4th dive, Julie and Russ said, come on, we're going to teach you our little after dive ritual. And that's when I learned about going to quarterdeck and getting pitchers of cold beer and having a fish sandwich or red wine. So Julie had managed to get Marilyn to come, and Diane Johnston also joined us. So we went out to lunch. My husband was still here at the time, and the 6 of us went and had a really nice lunch. And that's when I had my first interaction with Marilyn, and I just loved her. She was such a lady. And that was it.
And you went on a few dive trips with her, didn't you?
No, I don't think so. I don't think Marilyn ever was on any of the trips that I went overseas. No.
In 2004, that would have been right when Jim and I took off in the RV. You know, I was a dive buddy for Mom for many years.
And then I came along and stole her away.
And at first, Mom was very unhappy, but then she decided that she liked Jim, and so the three of us went on dive
I had
trips together.
technical computer skills. That's the only thing that she recognized for me.
Yeah,
Because I was taking her best buddy away from her. I took her travel friend. I took her dive buddy. I just, sorry. I don't regret any of it.
When you get a chance, I'd like to just say a few words.
Go ahead.
Yeah,
that's good.
Right now.
Okay.
Go ahead,
Well,
Ronnie.
I was and still am a morning person. And so we were on a liveaboard. Sorry, I don't remember which one. So I would be like first up. So I thought to get my cup of coffee and I'd go on the bow of the boat and I'd get my cup of coffee and just take in the morning. And lo and behold, Marilyn was there. So we really never spoke. We just nodded. And every morning when I went there, she was there. So it was just a really, really serene moment for the both of us. We did that every single day on the liveaboard. And then for most of you that don't know, I actually went to your, I think I told Chris that I actually went to your, when you owned the business, I took an Excel class and Jim was there. You guys weren't married then at the time, by the way. Yeah, so, and I think Marilyn was there. I don't remember, but I do remember Jim, but you guys weren't married yet. Yeah. So
Mom
that
was the
neat.
main teacher for Excel. So
Yeah.
And I
yeah.
am very memorable. That's the other.
Yeah. So that was one of my most memorable ones. So it was
So
like I
when
said,
you would see her in the mornings, was that on the bow of the boat?
oh yeah, the bow of the boat. I'd go in the bow of the boat by myself, I thought, with my cup of coffee, and then she was there. And we would just nod at each other. I don't even think we said good morning. I don't remember. And every morning when I was there, she was there. And it was just, and we smelled, you know, the air and just look out at the ocean. It was really, really nice. Yeah.
I remember that you used to smell.
That was my perfume.
That fits a little video clip that I have where she is on the bow of the boat and then a lot of people come out. She's watching the sun set.
No, we were in
And-
the morning.
And she's actually narrating in this particular video clip. And she was not happy that she said, I was here first. And then all these people came up.
It was just her and I don't think anyone else came up. We drank our.
Yeah.
Okay.
Marilyn, I'll
breakfast, I
just
think
stick this in.
Neil's reading
Marilyn,
it. Yeah,
Marilyn
okay, thank
on the
you.
boat. Every boat she went on that I was ever with her, she was always in front of the boat.
Mhm,
He told me that's where her quiet place,
Yeah.
where she could be her independent self and be quiet. She loved it. And someone else mentioned she liked to go to new places. I think Linda did. I remember the first trip she took on her own, we'd been on the Truck Lagoon. And when she found out they were doing an exploratory trip for 3 weeks across nowhere in Micronesia exploring, she says, Gary, I got to do this. And she was off. She loved exploratory trips, to be the first person.
The bow of the boat. We took a fabulous week-long trip on a boat called the Necton,
Oh, yeah.
which is a huge pontoon boat, basically.
Yeah.
So it's square.
AJ and Jerry were there.
Yeah. And so she came and looked at the boat. She had signed up for the trip. She was going to come with us for this week. And she went and looked at the boat and she said, no way.
There was no bow.
There's no bow.
There was no pointy bow. It was like all blocked off. It was a great dive boat, though. We had a great time, didn't we?
Yeah, it was a great boat. Marie, are you there? Are you ready? You want to say something?
I tried to put something together and I just had such a difficult time. So I'll just talk about some of the memories. I remember going to Marilyn's condo and she takes me upstairs and she's looking, she has this Apple computer. I think it's an Apple computer. It's a box and you know, it's, and she's showing me these dive sites and she would tell me about where she had been. And it was someplace that I had no idea where it was. and then she'd tell me where she was going, and I had no idea where it was. But by the end of the day, I was going with her. It was, I guess my prize recollection was when she gave the trip of Sipadan and Sangalaki to you and Jim as a wedding present. And then the cool part was that she invited me to go along, and and she had invited herself, and so it was really great. I'd never gone on anybody else's honeymoon before, and I remember a wedding cake of rice, and because they didn't have that tradition wherever it is that we were. And so it was this 3-layer rice cake with green vegetables and things. And it was just, well, maybe it was your anniversary. I'm not real sure, but I do remember that. And it was one of those remote places where you had to take a flashlight with you because the power was going to be off at 9 o'clock. And so we'd go to the dining hall. And you could take the flashlight to the dining hall, but you couldn't use the flashlight to get back because the turtles would be nesting. And so, so you've been having dinner and relaxed and had some wine with dinner, and then you're walking home the way you got there, only you now fall into a big, humongous hole because this huge green turtle had dug the hole, changed her mind, and gone somewhere else. And so it was just so remarkable to go to places like that, so remote. I remember a 3-hour water taxi ride that was an absolute death trap. But when we got there, it was very shallow, and we had to walk a fair distance to get to the island. And there was this rainbow of women, this crescent row of women holding umbrellas, and they're all wearing their beautiful sarongs, and it was welcome to the island. And that's the kind of places that she went and explored and loved. And so out of her sense of adventure, I really got to create my own and fulfill a lot of my dreams. I mean, I doubt that I would have gone to Antarctica if she hadn't told me about Antarctica, and that was one of the highlight trips of my life. I found something the other day in a journal. Periodically, when I journal, and so on July 10th, 2019, I think I had just finished a conversation with Chris, and I found this in my journal. I said I saw a photo of Chris and Marilyn posted on Facebook, and I'm grateful that it was posted. That Chris has Jim, and Jim has Chris, and Marilyn brought them together. She had a vision, and through that vision and her creativity, she, along with Chris, created a then futuristic company. Marilyn saw the direction the world was going. She created Computer Savvy, which was led by a visionary Marilyn, a creative Chris, and then joined by a bedrock Jim. It was a beautiful tapestry they wove, a long list of memories of love that they created together as they worked and played together. So for me, it's a threesome. It's Marilyn, it's Chris, it's Jim, it's Computer Savvy, it's what you all created together, and ultimately in creating such a joyous life. So it's very sweet. Thank you.
Thank you,
Oh
Marie.
my goodness gracious.
Thank you. We were a threesome for a long time.
Yeah,
there.
we did a lot of stuff together.
My favorite
Not too
memory.
kinky.
My favorite one of the threesome, if you read the story of her life, I think I have it in there, was that she would call us and Jim would answer the phone, and 20 minutes later he hung up, and I said, well, what? Why didn't she want to talk to me? One time she called in the late at night and said, did you know there's a meteor shower that's going to happen tonight between 3 and 4 a.m.
The Perseids, yeah.
And the best place to watch it is out in the Everglades. Do you want to go?
And we did. We went out in the Everglades and we laid out the blanket on the top of the car and we laid out on the hood and we watched the sky explode. It was pretty cool.
Anybody else want to just anybody that has something that they Bonnie?
I will.
Oh, okay.
Melinda,
then
yeah,
Bonnie.
please.
Well, I'm a landlubber over here in the mountains, and I first met Marilyn. Gosh, she came to visit Chris and I when Chris lived with me in Incline Village, and she is just incredible. Felt like, well, Chris is like my sister, and meeting her mom and hearing her stories and being with her several times since then, I always wish she was my mom, because my mom had not that adventure. I believe it was that Christmas time that it was Christmas or Thanksgiving, talking about my trip rafting down the Colorado River.
I think you just covered up your microphone.
Oh, there.
Yeah, there we go.
Talking about the Colorado River, and she got that glow in her eye, and she said, "Whoa, let's go," and started planning the trip. And I think it was the following summer that Chris joined us, and we all rafted down the Colorado River. The last time I saw her was they came to visit us here in Washoe Valley, Nevada, and it was cold and snowy outside, not her kind of weather at all, nor Chris's. And she was just beginning to lose her memory at that time. But we went out for a lovely hike in the snow, and the wild horses were around, and she fell in love with our big old dog. And so when at the beginning, when Chris said she loved animals oftentimes more than people, I definitely saw that, because we have a lot of animals and always have. And Chris or Marilyn was just always there, loving on the critters. Yeah, there he is. He's just now barking when I mentioned her name.
I thought that was Laird.
I know.
That wasn't me.
He only barks sometimes. So just fond memories of Marilyn, and what a great mom to have, Chris. So I miss her.
I do have a picture of Mom with Strider.
Oh my God.
Oh,
Yeah. He was a gentle giant that loved her and she loved him. And you can it's kind of white out that window. You can see the snow on the ground.
Yeah.
But she was a trooper. So love you guys. And I'm so glad to be here with y'all.
Thank you. Thank you, Melinda.
Chris, I have something. Anne.
Hi, Anne.
Hello. You know, I did take an Excel class from you, and I guess your mother. That's the first time I met her and got to know you a little bit more. And mostly, of course, I don't dive, so I've never been on one of those trips. And I learned about your mother and what she believed in and all these things that she did. I've learned more today, but I heard all that from you and from Jim, but mostly from you, and the relationship you had with her was remarkable, and I was glad to know that. You know, I would see Marilyn a little bit here and there, but most of how I knew her was through you. So I just wanted to say that.
Yeah. And she came to some of the Women's Executive Club meetings, and that's okay. I see you, Mary May, but Bonnie, I'm calling on Bonnie next, then Mary May. Hey, Bonnie.
Hi, how are you? So you all know Marilyn probably 30 years, I'm guessing. I don't know how many years you all have known her, but of course, Chris have known her forever, but I think I met her probably 55 years ago, and Aaron too. And you talk about threesomes. The threesome was Chris, Aaron, and me. We were the three. And
Three Musketeers.
Yep, we were the Three Musketeers. We met in high school, and I was always so in love with your mom. I was jealous actually of you. Your mom was so young and hip and able to talk to her And, my mom was a lot older when she had me. So I really enjoyed the time that we were together as teenagers and talking with her and talking with you and what you would share with your mom about how she was with you. And all of you know Marilyn, older and adventurous and all that. But as a mom, she was fabulous. She was really, really fabulous. That's it.
I'd like to second that.
back from those days. Oh, Erin, I just got a memory of you in a high school with mom and dad. We went down to the Keys and rented a houseboat and anchored off an island. And you and I went out and just played in the mud.
Yes.
And
I
mom
have
was
a
all
photo-
for it.
I have those photographs.
You have
I mean, I
photos of
forgot
us
about
in the
that, but
mud?
yes, there's one photo that your dad took of us on the, actually there's a couple. There's one on the roof and there's one of each of us driving the boat.
Okay.
I'll find them and I'll
See if
send
you
them
can
to
find
you.
that, yeah.
Yeah. No, I know right where it would be. And long as I'm here, I have a couple memories, of course. I remember the first time I came to dinner at your house, and I think you'll probably remember this, I don't know, but your mom made the one meal. I mean, you know me, I'll eat anything and I love food, but she made the one thing I would not eat, and it was 3-bean salad. And it was very hard for me to not be rude at dinner because I hated beans. There was nothing about a bean that I liked. So there's that. I don't remember what I did, but that was the main course. And in any case, I remember that meal vividly. And then I, of course, am not from the underwater boat trips. I got to go on the boat trip that went to Europe, went to France, which was fantastic. And I treasure having been on that with her and you guys. And it was, for me, obviously one of the
That was an amazing trip. What she's talking about is a drive yourself boat in France. Jim drove the boat and he went with his mother-in-law
Me and 5 women.
That's right.
And not a good thing necessarily.
And it was in 2001 and we were on that boat on 9/11. And that was an interesting experience.
Yes, we were.
We had to get the news from a French newspaper.
Yeah, it was weird.
Well, no, we got the news from a French bartender.
Well, yeah, you and I did.
Yeah. And it was quite an amazing trip. And I've had many friends since we've talked about, doing a trip like that because it was so amazing. And you can bring, any number of people on these barges, which were basically, I can't think of the name of what the boats are called, but it's not really a barge. Well, no, it wasn't even a houseboat. It
Narrowboat.
There's another word, but anyway, it was an amazing way to travel, and I highly recommend it to anybody. And I guess by that point, maybe Marilyn wasn't one of the first ones up on the boat because I was, and I didn't remember her up on the bow with me, but I have a lot of Dawn pictures on the boat.
Right. I do have, I can think of a photo I have of you on the bow of the boat.
Yeah, well, that's where I sat most of the time. And it was great. And I was very happy.
Right.
All right. Cool.
Mary Nay.
I have a comment and a question. I would say, oh, by the way, this is my new husband, Gary Suter.
Yay! Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you all.
She's the best.
I am so jealous.
You are a good dive buddy, Jim. Do you remember all those lobster we got?
Oh, I have pictures. Yes, dear.
Yes. My comment was that Marilyn was a love child before love children came along. And she was a love child during the 60s, I'm sure, and she was a love child her whole life, no matter what. Now, I don't want to be gauche, but I do have a question. Where did she get the money to take all these trips?
She was good at investing. And
I married well.
well, now, you know, and it's in my story of her life that my stepdad was a wheeler dealer. You know, according to Mom, he never worked a day in his life. But in real estate, he would make the occasional big deal. In fact, if you know Fort Lauderdale, you know where the county jail is on the banks of the New River downtown.
That used to be her house.
That used to be our house. Yeah, I like to say, you know, I used to live right there. That's the county jail.
Wait a minute, you lived on the site where the jail was?
Yes, where the jail is now. I mean, it wasn't.
I know. It's that incredible, because our office was, you know, I was at the University Tower across the river
right
from
there.
the jail. And we would, you know, as Fort Lauderdale redeveloped and discovered the river, you know, you had this jail building with right there on that prime property. And that was your property?
I mean, that was prime property, and it's a jail. But you know, my dad, because of Jim Noggle. Anybody who's a real probably know Jim Noggle's name. My dad gave Jim Noggle his first job, and so it built from there. So he would make the occasional big deal, and she had the nice steady income after she became a CPA, and then managed the money that came from his big deals. And it worked out.
It's working out great for me.
And then she and I started a business, and then we sold the business, and that was good. And then she and I invested that. So yeah, it was, and she didn't spend on anything else.
Travel and adventure and cool stuff.
Great question, actually. You know, money is a huge issue for people. And she taught me that money equals freedom. You know, you want money not for money's sake, but for the freedom it can buy you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
And nice to meet you.
Thank you. Nice to meet you, sir. I've heard a lot about this group of people. So,
well, nothing good, I hope.
No, she speaks very highly of her times in the dive club, and so
I'm glad to hear it.
Yes, she does.
Thank you.
So is it? Oh, Russ and Julie.
And Debbie had one too.
Oh, okay. Well, Debbie first, and then Russ and Julie. We need to hear from you.
Absolutely.
Okay, well, first, off topic, I love Mary May's cat. She's got a Rex cat. You know, I used to have Rex cat, so that's cool.
Really, we don't care about animals, Debbie. It's get over it.
Well, animals is the reason I raised my hand. So, of course, when you think of Marilyn, you think adventure, you think travel, you think diving, you think freedom. You know, that's what we all think. And I know Marilyn and Chris from way back in the Week of the Ocean days. So that's like where I first met them, like 40 years ago or whatever. And then I was Marilyn's neighbor for a long time. She bought in the townhouses and I bought in the condos. So we were like next to each other for a long time, which was like across the street from Computer Savvy Workshops. And then one of their employees became my best friend, John Black, who's not on the top, So like our lives have been intertwined. And then of course, Chris and Jim have visited me all over the country as I've been all over the country. And the last time, I actually never went on Marilyn's dive trips because I could never afford them. But then after I joined Cayuba, and I don't have pictures of diving with Marilyn off the kayak, but we got to do that. And also with cousin, her brother, Uncle John. He's not my uncle, but that's what I call him. But here's the reason I raised my hand. So everybody says she loves animals. And I remembered that I have this very blurry picture of her at a Cayuba meeting, and I'm going to share it. And I used to foster dogs. And here she is. So I brought this little dog to this meeting, and she didn't want to put him down. I mean, she was just so in love with this little dog. And it's like, that's like my last memory of her before she, ended up losing her independence. And I love this picture.
I remember
Absolutely,
that.
yeah. Thank you. That's great.
I remember that completely. And yes, that was when I think she may have already been living in an assisted living at that point. But the connection to animals, to pets, to sweet animals, even after you've gone into dementia is huge. That's why, Melinda, I know that you actually had your uncle living with you for the last 6 months of his life in dementia, and what a gift he had to be in your menagerie.
Your menagerie.
Your animals.
Yeah. Well,
I'm sure that was
good on
just
Uncle
fabulous.
Fred. Yeah, absolutely.
To him.
It's good. Yeah.
Well, Russ and Julie,
Russ and Julie,
I wanted
absolutely.
to first of all just thank you so much, Julie, for putting together the slideshow that you're seeing behind us. Of course, it's done with Google Photos, and anybody who uses Google Photos can add your own photos to it.
And if you want to buy the book,
but you all spent a lot of time with Mom in the years where I was off RVing. And so you want to say something about your time with her?
Okay, first of all, let me apologize that Julie's microphone is not working. We have to do some troubleshooting to find out what the problem is there, but we'll get that fixed.
You sound good.
Toastmasters don't apologize, Russ. Go ahead.
Anyway, so I'll go ahead and say a few words about Marilyn. Our fondest memories of Marilyn go back to the USA Dive Club. For you folks that don't live in Florida, it's a South Florida-based club. We have an awful lot of fun. It's a huge social organization, and Marilyn was one of our most fun members. I don't remember anybody in the dive club having more life than Marilyn. Julie and I joined the dive club back in the 1980s, and next year the dive club will be celebrating its 50th anniversary. So we've been with the club a number of those years, and Marilyn came on board January 1st of 1988. We immediately gravitated toward Marilyn because she enjoyed drinking red wine. And everything that we put together in the way of a social event somehow ended up with a little glass of red wine or 2 or 3 being consumed by Marilyn and her friends. We found that Marilyn was such an active person when we were doing social activities, my wife and I and my sister-in-law, Claire. There was hardly an event ever that we would schedule: hiking, biking, canoeing, kayaking, movies, dinner, and on and on and on, that Marilyn wouldn't sign up for and join. And then, of course, if there was a glass of wine afterward, Marilyn was always there to enjoy
So
that.
much the better.
But my fondest memories of Marilyn were later on in the years, when Marilyn had kind of backed off and moved into a little less active role. We would invite Marilyn to our favorite lunch place in Fort Lauderdale called The Ark Restaurant. And we would meet Marilyn there. And it was a cozy, dark, comfortable place. And we switched to martinis. And we would start off having 1 martini and then 2 martinis. And we would talk and laugh and talk and laugh. And this went on for months and months and months and months, until finally one day Marilyn said, "I don't think I can make it anymore. I'm not able to find my way to and from the restaurant." And sadly, that restaurant, which was a family-owned and family-operated business for decades in South Florida, has now also gone out of business, and they're no longer there. So I just wanted to share those non-diving memories with Marilyn, who shall forever be burned in our memories as one of the most active persons that we've ever known in our lives.
Thank you. All right, more dry tears. All right, good one. Good one.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, you said martinis.
Yeah.
In your message to me, and I said martinis. I don't remember her drinking.
I know, I
martinis.
did. I remember the sapphire.
Oh, the Bombay Sapphire. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I do remember that. I do remember that.
All right.
So
who was next? There was
Hey,
somebody
I
else.
was just a really quickie. Bombay Sapphire. She and my dad really connected over that. My dad loved your mom too, but he was a flirt of all time. But I do remember them sharing a lot of Bombay together. And I think you and I joined in a bit too. So new memory popping
I
up.
find that hard to believe, Melinda.
Yeah. My dad loved your mom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
We all loved your mom.
So I'm sorry that Sue Revy couldn't make it here. Sue Revy was one of the USA Dive Club members. And she, sometime in the 90s, on a dive trip, got bent. For those of you non-divers out there, that's bad.
You can't dive no more.
You can't dive anymore if you get bent. And she couldn't, but she still wanted to travel. Mom's last diving trip was in 2007, I think. 2006, the picture that's behind us right now, was Fiji. She took us to Fiji. But in 2007, I think she went on a Paul Heumann trip. She did several Paul Heumann trips. And by 2008, she said she realized she could not dive anymore. In 2008, she would have been 77. So she was a diver up to age 76. So age 77, she couldn't dive anymore, but she still wanted to travel. Sue Revy could not dive anymore since long time before that, and still wanted to travel. So they went on all sorts of trips. They went to see the beluga whales in Churchill, Manitoba. They went to Namibia. They saw the polar bears and my friend Emily Russian went with Mom on all around the world, and the highlight was a solar eclipse in
Ulaanbaatar.
Ulaanbaatar. Well, anyway.
Turkey.
No, I went with her on the solar eclipse in Turkey.
This was Ulaanbaatar in Mongolia.
Mongolia, yeah.
Oh, of course.
That was a different solar eclipse.
Different solar eclipse. Yeah.
Actually, Chris and I saw a better solar eclipse watching it on the internet from Japan.
Because Mom and Emily in Mongolia, it was a snowstorm and they couldn't see the solar eclipse.
It was overcast.
Anyway, Sue Revy went with Mom on her last travels, which was 2008. In 2008, they went to Western Australia.
The Kimberley.
In the Kimberley, and Mom loved that trip. And her very last trip, and I want to show you a little clip of this, was Petra. That's Sue Revy, her back there.
especially her name.
You're on mute.
You're on mute, Chris.
If I don't do that, we get echo during the, yeah, and then she's supposed to remind me. It's all her
Yep.
fault.
Blame the
So that-
husband, blame the husband, blame the husband.
Right. No, it's always my fault. That's.
Oh, it is. Oh, well, it was his fault today. His
No,
fault.
it's always my fault.
Oh,
So that last trip was 2008 to Petra. I don't know if Petra is it's a pretty special place in Jordan, where they carved out of the rock. And Mom said that was the last place on her list that she wanted to go. So she's done.
I don't believe it.
Yeah. Now, what I know is that she realized that she couldn't anymore. So for 2009 and 10, she came with us in the RV around the United States a lot. And then when I noticed that there were smoke stains behind the oven, the toaster oven,
Yeah.
I realized that she couldn't live on her own anymore, and I moved her into assisted living, and we still took her on RV trips, but that was like 10 years ago. Anyway, Sue Revy went on several trips, Namibia, China, North Korea.
Yeah.
They went
Pretty
to North
weird.
Korea?
She went to North Korea, and there's video. If you go to the Marilyn's blog.
I think she had something to do with the assassination of Kim Jong.
Anyway, then Sue
Can I
Revy
say
called
something?
me. Sue Revy called me and said that she was worried about Mom, and I knew exactly what she meant. Mom was confused all the time. And so that was the end of her travels. And there, look at Gary and Mom till the end. I wanted to ask, okay, Niels.
Yeah, I have a Sue Revy comment, because back when I arranged my first exotic trip to Thailand in 2004, I know Kathy and Steve McCutcheon and Jim Dunn and the Morgans. They went to Angkor Wat.
Oh, I remember.
And who do they walk
my
into
God. Yeah.
on the grounds in Angkor Wat?
Yeah.
Sue Revy.
They hear her voice. They go, I know that voice. And it was her. Yeah.
And since then, we have actually had Sue Revy travel with us. The last time she went on a trip with us was when we went to state, what was that?
It's not called Stacia. It's called shoot.
Eustatius.
Yeah.
The small island in
By Saba and Station.
Yeah, it wasn't Saba, it was Stacia.
It's nearby though.
Yeah,
it's over there somewhere.
Yeah, but she went with us on that trip as as a non-diving.
And she was going to go on what, Fiji?
She was still thinking about Fiji.
No, there was one that she forgot her passport.
Oh, you're not supposed to tell.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That was, yeah.
Oh, Cuba.
No, so when we went to Yap and Palau, she was going to join us for the Yap week. And she went as far as Hawaii before she realized that she had left her passport at home.
So she turned around.
So she turned around. Well, anyway, when Kathy McCutcheon did a similar mistake 3 years later, she misplaced her passport while she was in truck, and
She went back to Hawaii.
then she basically realized that the only thing she could do was to go back to Hawaii and get a replacement passport. So Jim Dunn was waiting for her in Guam, and they basically caught up to the trip 3 days late. Sue Revy did not get that option. But any time, the learning from all this is whenever you are going on an international trip that requires a passport, just please forget that you have a US driver's license.
Oh, yeah.
Because
You need
when
that
you try to
passport.
dig into the first connection, that's when you want to know you didn't bring your
We're
passport.
talking about Maryland, so.
Yeah, okay. sorry for the detour, but that was a lessons learned I wanted to share.
And I just want to give a shout out to Chris Lorber, because I met Chris when I first moved back to Florida in 1983, and it was Chris that introduced me to the USA Dive Club, also to South Florida Dive Club. But we back in 1983, we belonged to both, and yeah. So Chris, anything to add? You know, that you introduced me to USA Dive Club. I introduced Mom to USA Dive Club, and you've been hearing all about that.
I think the reason that we belong to two, I belong to the South Florida Divers because it was in Hollywood. And then you joined the USA Divers because it was in Fort Lauderdale. But the thing that I remember most about Marilyn was doing some local trips to wonderful Florida places. She always found an interesting place to go and she'd plan the trip out. And what was remarkable to me was Chris and I became good friends, and she wanted to take a trip with her mom. And I was like, who wants to travel with somebody's mom? But Marilyn was not like somebody's mom. She was just like one of us. And we did a lot of local traveling and had a really good time. She was a special lady, Chris. Yeah, we all miss her.
Thank you. Yes. And I remember the trip that you're talking about was our just Florida B&B trip.
Yeah.
Weird stuff.
All right.
You let her go.
Who else?
We're getting close to wrapping it up, but let me see if anybody.
Rob's got
Rob?
something. It looks like they have better connection now somehow.
Okay, we improved the connection. We turned it off our big TV, and that's where all the Wi-Fi problems were.
Good idea.
So, Marilyn was the second person from Florida I ever met, really. Patrice was the first. I met her the evening of the Thorfinn when I arrived late. And then I guess because Patrice had the same kind of underwater camera rig I had, they kind of made us dive buddies. And I actually, the first dive, I kind of abandoned Patrice and Marilyn because they drifted off in the current out in the blue. And I, there's nothing out there to take a picture of. I wanted to head to the reef, which I did. And then nobody else was there, so I surfaced. And anyway, that's another story. But I didn't really know what Marilyn thought of me on the Thorfinn trip. She was always she was fun to be with. And so was Patrice. But I'm afraid I possibly sort of stole Patrice away because she came to my cabin to watch movies and stuff when we were drifting around, dead in the water. And then, we all said our goodbyes on Yap and left and everything. And so my favorite memory of Marilyn is actually the look on Marilyn's face the following September. This is about 3 or 4 months later, when I went to my first SWUPS meeting.
South Florida, explain what that is.
Yeah, South Florida Underwater Photo Society. And Patrice, during a break in the meeting, Patrice, decided to, introduce me to a few people. And all of a sudden we ran into Marilyn, and the look on her face, her jaw kind of dropped to the floor. And then she had this ear to ear grin. And, so I'm thinking Marilyn is just thinking, wow, something good happened. We're still together after 20 years. And so the lesson from Marilyn is that she's always young at heart.
Great.
And
yes, absolutely.
That's my favorite memory of her.
I do think she takes some pride, some responsibility in you two being together. And
somehow,
she made that happen. And the same with Russ and Julie. She told me a story about the San Sal trip when I think she was rooming with Julie, and all of a sudden Julie was rooming with Russ. I don't know.
Can this be true? All right, they ran away. Russ is drinking to that one.
Something about a smile on your butt or something. Okay, this is probably going too far.
Yeah, too much information.
Well, I think that we've about, unless, just
anybody else?
Last call. For anybody who wants to say something.
Kim wanted to say something.
Okay, Kim.
Hey, Kim.
Marilyn. She's in my window right here.
Can you see
Yeah.
Sophia? Anyway, Marilyn would have loved Sophia. Anyway, I met your mother, and I couldn't afford at the time the wonderful trips that she took, but she was so gracious to share her photos with me and invite me for when she had reunion parties and picture displays at Sophia. She doesn't have corona. She just has old dog. Anyway, Chris, thank you and Jim for keeping your mother's memory alive for so long in the USA Dive Club, because Marilyn made such an impact on me, on everybody here. And it was so nice to share the stories. And Merry Christmas to everybody. I love you guys and I miss you. Good night.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kim. That
Thank
was very
you.
Nice. Absolutely.
And
I love the dog farts.
Oh, she's coughing.
She's actually coughing.
She's coughing. That was Ryan farting.
I did. I got my extra tall round coat.
Chris.
And back at you. Thank you so much to the dive club people who really took care of Mom when I was out on the road after you kind of got the idea that she wasn't all there anymore.
Yeah.
I saw somebody waving. Who was that?
That picture, what is that statue of Stalin?
I think that's from North Korea.
Oh, that would explain it.
Yeah.
That's in our backyard, man. We got one of those. Don't you?
Yeah.
There's the other guy.
If you go to her blog and her list of trips and see North Korea, they got a full hour of video, and it's pretty weird stuff. It is pretty weird stuff. That's my favorite picture of her right there.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, yes, Gary.
Yes. You talk about her being gutsy and going places. Back in the 1990s, we had an opportunity to go to Cuba, of all places. Now you can go there, well, except Trump stopped us for a while, but before him, you could go. But back in the 90s, you couldn't. And we went through a travel agency up in Canada, And here's a picture of Marilyn and I
Here we go.
in Cuba.
18.
And this was back in 1998. And you didn't take your passports. They wouldn't stamp them because otherwise you don't want to stamp a US passport, you're in trouble. But she was gutsy. She said, Carrie, let's go. So we did. It was a marvelous trip. And I'll tell you one funny thing that happened
Talking about Maryland.
on that trip. We're back at a hotel in Havana,
Need to be on mute.
and they tell us where our room is. And it says the second floor in that wing. We go to that wing, we're looking for a elevator. There's no elevator. So I had to shuck all my stuff upstairs, all of our dive gear, then go get all of her dive gear, bring it upstairs. Later on, we're asking somebody down, hey, why don't you have an elevator upstairs? And the people in charge sort of smugly smiled behind and didn't say too much. But here's what we learned. And Marilyn really died laughing when she heard this, because back in the big heyday of Cuba, when it was open before Castro, that hotel was one of the best in town. And the wing was for prostitutes. Nobody took luggage up there. They just walked up the stairs. And when she found out we were staying in the wing, that wing we were staying in was originally built that way, she died laughing. It was one of the funniest things I've done after both of them.
Perfect.
Did you make any money that night?
What a perfect, thank you for that perfect ending.
Yeah.
And I would like everybody to raise their glass,
Please.
whether it's full or empty. Please raise a glass. And here's to Marilyn. May her spirit live on with all of us.
Yes. God bless you for doing this. God bless everybody.
All right. We love you all. Thank you so much. Be safe.
So very much for
Thank
sharing.
you.
What a great memories. Beautiful woman. Thank you for sharing.
All right. Bye-bye.